Oh shit, here we go again.
Welcome to the Godfathers of Podcasting. Now, in case y'all didn't know, they've been podcasting since before podcasting was even called podcasting. Archives of this show are available on every major podcast provider, and you can find video archives, merch, and more on their website, godfathersofpodcasting.com. Now, here are your hosts, two guys who've been broadcasting online since 1996, the Godfathers of Podcasting themselves, Donnie DeSilva and Chris Tidwell.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. We are the Godfathers, and like the lady said, my name is Donnie. And the man next to me, well, he is the Ricky Morton to my Robert Gibson. He's the Greg Valentine to my Brutus Beefcake. He is the Shawn Michaels to my Marty Jannetty. That is Notorious TID, Chris Tidwell. What up, Tid?
Wow. Is it because of the broken back thing?
Broken back from carrying me for the last 25 years. In case you're not getting all the wrestling references, it's because this is going to be a very wrestling heavy episode this week on the Godfathers of Podcasting, because it's Wrestlemania weekend, Tid. Not just Wrestlemania is on the weekend. The entire weekend is WrestleMania and WrestleMania accoutrement and events. And so we are going to deep dive on that this week. And we figured, why not? Let's just have some fun. It's not something we ever do. And why the hell not, right?
I mean, are there rules? Are there rules to any of this stuff that we do, Donnie? So we might as well, if there's no rules, then I say we have fun. If there's rules, then I say we break the rules and have fun.
Even when we used to work on a network that had rules, did we obey any of the rules?
No, I got fired.
I remember so many times back in the early days, in the Wild West days of the internet, when Tid and I first started doing this stuff, and we would just be on the air talking shit, and the station owner would run down the stairs into the studio, be like, "What the fuck did he just say?"
Hey, how do I know? I don't come from the same world that all y'all came from. Y'all came from like this world of like, you went to school and you learned how to do it. I'm just a dumbass with a big mouth who says stuff. So until I hear you can't say that, I'm gonna say it. Needless to say, I've learned a lot of things that you can't say.
I know this sounds like an inappropriate euphemism, but I literally just found Tid on a street corner. Like that's not even a joke. Literally found him on a street corner.
I mean, I wasn't lost.
No, he was standing outside of a nightclub, being the big heavy.
I was
beating the shit out of people.
Milking people for money is what I was doing.
Hustling like a motherfucker.
Working the market.
My God. It was the best. I know I've told this story before, but for anyone who's new, let me just recap real quick. My favorite thing ever is being a young 19-year-old standing next to Tid, and we're working outside the hottest nightclub in Toronto, and there's a line, okay? The line is 2.5, 3 hours at any given time, right? Because the owners were dicks, and they made us hold the line. They wanted a big line at all times.
100%.
So there's always a huge line, and then people would start coming up to Tid and be like, "Hey, bro, what's it going to take for me to skip this line?" And he's like, "It's not going to take anything. You're going to go back in line." And then the guy would be like, "Well, how about $20 a person?" He's like, "How about you go fuck yourself?" "Okay, how about $40 a person? You just got in."
Yeah, you still got to pay the cover charge. That's just that's just to get you to the front of the line, bro.
Yes. And the best was on New Year's Eve. People standing on the street in a 2-hour line at 11:45. Mm-hmm. You want to be inside for New Year for midnight. So now the money starts flying.
Well, so remember they would try to tell us that you couldn't charge, right? And it was tickets only to get in. So you had to have a ticket to get into the place. So we had people that would show up and they'd have
Right.
their tickets and they weren't going to go. So I'd be like, I'm gonna buy your ticket. Well, can I sell it back to the club? I'm the club. I'll buy your ticket. Boom. And then I would resell them right in front of the club doors for double. What? I'm Ticketmaster. There you go.
You were the Ticketmaster. You were StubHub before StubHub.
100%. 100%. You know who's making a killing this week?
StubHub.
You know who's making a killing this week is places like Ticketmaster and StubHub, because listen, you said it in the beginning. WrestleMania 40 from Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love.
Yeah.
And it's been going on. So WrestleMania officially starts Saturday, but it's been going on since, I don't know, a month and a half ago. I said it over on the Law Live Audio Wrestling on that show. I said it earlier when we did a thing. I said, I don't know what is longer, WrestleMania week or a white girl's birthday month. You know what I mean?
You know what? That's a funny game. What's longer than WrestleMania weekend? White girl's birthday month,
Right?
Indian wedding.
Right?
I've been to a few Indian weddings, man.
Yeah.
There's one that's still going on.
Bro, the food is good though.
Oh, good. It's the best.
Yeah, so good.
I'm doing a quick search because now I'm curious. I'm looking on StubHub to see if there are WrestleMania tickets available and what they're going for.
Oh, I can't
You have a
imagine.
guess?
Oh, okay. Where are we talking about? Are we talking about on floors? Are we talking about on floors? Give me an area. Give me an area of where it could be, and I'll try to guess the price.
So floors, it says
Okay.
section F15.
Okay.
So you're about, it looks like based on this photo, you're at least 150, 200 feet away from the ring, but you're on the floor. So you're going to
Okay.
have a lot of heads in front of you.
All right.
It's not a great view, but you are on the floor.
Okay. All right.
2 tickets.
2 tickets, 14,000 each.
No, it's not that crazy. But it's 9,200 for the pair.
Oh, that's less than $5,000. You spend that on a trip to Portugal.
Change.
Yeah. Whatever.
It's insane, bro.
Yeah,
It's
that
insane.
is-
I used to go to Maple Leaf Gardens and sit ringside for $20.
Well, you know what? We'll ask the guest. What's the
Yeah.
most paid for a ticket to go see a show? Absolutely.
Do you remember, before we get to the guest, let me ask you this. Do you remember the last time you actually paid money for a wrestling show and how much you paid?
Oh.
I'm sure it's been a while.
Ooh.
I don't think I've paid for a ticket since maybe 95.
Ooh, yeah, bro. Because early 90s. It would have been early
Yeah,
90s
for
stuff.
sure.
Yeah. No.
Wild, right?
That's insane. And CTE
Yeah.
dictates I should not remember those things anyways. So I don't.
I know you've been hitting the head a lot.
Yeah, get rid of those thoughts. Make room for new ones.
Have you seen that Uber Eats commercial where they do exactly that? They're like, every time you remember something new, you have to forget something. That
Wasn't
is the funniest.
Wasn't that a Super Bowl commercial or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's so many different versions of it. One with David Beckham and Posh, and there's one with Jennifer Aniston and Schwimmer, and there's one with Jelly Roll. It's fucking money. It's my favorite commercial right now.
Awesome.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's get to this week's guest. It is time for the big hello. This week's guest, he is a guy who just loves to pod. Back in 2014, he launched his first website called Comics I Read, where he would just, review comics. And that spawned the birth of his first podcast and a brand new passion. In 2020, he helped launch a new show on a network that we've been affiliated with for quite some time, SNME. He eventually worked his way up to taking over the hosting duties of the flagship show where he talks wrestling and everything that he loves and hates about it. That show can be heard every week on TSN and iHeartRadio. This week is basically Christmas for him. And as we're coming up fast to WrestleMania weekend, ladies and gentlemen, here is the host of Sunday night's main event. This is Boris Roberto Aguilar. How are you?
I'm doing great, gents. How are you guys?
Well, we are doing just lovely. And it's like we said, it's WrestleMania weekend. So for anyone who's ever been tangentially a part of the wrestling industry, for anyone who has ever been even a casual fan, this is a big week.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's a big one. I feel like it's really the first day. All the afternoon shows have started, and I already feel tired just from like people messaging me,
You
getting
might want to check your
pictures.
thyroid if you're already feeling tired.
Actually, it's funny that you should even say that.
Oh, is that a
No, but
thing?
yeah, yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. No, but like realistically, it's been a crazy day already, and just thinking ahead of the weekend, everything that's happening, and you said it at the top. It's more than just WWE. It's kind of like a collection of everything to do with wrestling launching in Philadelphia right now. The amount of companies running shows, you
Oh, yeah.
want to be in Philly this weekend.
I spoke to, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, I spoke to no less than 25, 30 people in and around the wrestling industry this week. Former WWE employees, people that have worked for the other major promotions, people that are big names on the independent scene. And I'm like, hey, how's it going? And like, oh, I'm on my way to Philly. Like, really? Like, everyone's going to Philly. Everyone's going. There's like like you said, there's a whole bunch of independent shows that are all working in and around WrestleMania festivities. People are like, hey, fans, you're already here. You got nothing to do on Thursday night. Come watch an indie wrestling show. So there's stuff that's going on nonstop. It's crazy because, as you mentioned, the 40th installment of this major event. And when it started, it was just a big show that people could purchase to watch, and no one knew if it was going to work. And now it's this thing. It started to evolve right around, I think, WrestleMania 16, 17, somewhere in there, when they started doing the fan access event, right before WrestleMania, which was like a big convention type thing. That was a big deal, right? That was extending the WrestleMania weekend. Then they started adding in the Hall of Fame ceremonies, and then they added a second night of WrestleMania. Now they have the NXT pay-per-view that is part of the same week. It's like, holy shit. Like,
Yeah,
if you're a
tons.
dude or a lady that's in a relationship with someone who doesn't like wrestling, they may break up with you this weekend.
100%. 100%. Yeah, this really puts a lot of relationships to the test, just because you're focused on everything that is WrestleMania. If you have anything to do with the industry in regards, whether it be even reporting or anything, your focus is in Philadelphia right now.
So the format tonight, and I say this to the listener, this is going to be less of an interview with Boris like what we normally do. And this is just going to be the three of us talking about the whole weekend of events and giving our 2 cents. So let me start off going to Tid, because the first piece of the WrestleMania weekend happens tomorrow night on TV when the Hall of Fame kicks off. We have Paul Heyman, Bull Nakano, maybe the greatest boxer of all time, Muhammad Ali, Leah Maivia, Thunderbolt Patterson, and Wyndham and Rotunda, but not Wyndham Rotunda, all being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Who are you the most excited to hear from, Tid, in their Hall of Fame speech?
Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
Paul Heyman, for the plain and simple fact that he's going to be the best talker. It's going to be the greatest thing. If you talk about where it should take place, there's no better place than Philadelphia for Paul Heyman. I mean, that's where the entire industry changed, was Paul Heyman, Philadelphia, ECW, Shane Douglas. That promo sparked everything, right? So for Paul Heyman to get his flowers in Philadelphia, yeah, that's the one I'm most excited about, because I go back to those Paulie Dangerously days. I go back to those, those pictures with that big Zach Morris telephone. You know what I mean? So I've watched him grow to when he had hair, then he lost hair, then he got rid of all of his hair. Like, I've watched it over the years. Yes, I'm dating myself, right? But I've seen all of that. Now, outside of that, Wyndham and Rotundo. That's going to turn into a tearjerker. You know it is because of Wyndham Rotundo. Right?
It's so Wyndham and Rotunda will be a tearjerker because of Wyndham Rotunda. For anyone who's not in the know, Wyndham Rotunda is the real name of professional wrestler Bray Wyatt, who passed away last year at a very young age.
Yeah.
Mike Rotunda was his father. Wyndham, Barry Wyndham, was his uncle, and Dad named him after his best friend, his brother-in-law. Named him after his work name, right? And called him Wyndham. And I thought that was just the coolest name I've ever heard in my life.
If you could do that with your kid, let's say you have another child, either one of you, right? You have another child coming on the way and you have free reign, but you have to pick two wrestlers that go together, a name that'll go together, and that's your child's name. Who do you
isn't
pick?
the last name just your last name? You can't just give yourself a new last name.
Well,
your last name is just your last name.
Absolutely, you can. That's what middle names are for.
Oh.
Right. Like your middle name, duh.
So I think if I had another son, it would be Tidwell Sucks De Silva.
Wow. I mean, listen, I'm not the one that has to live with that name. Fuck do I care? That just tells people you're a bad parent with zero creativity.
Going back to the Paul Heyman thing, though, when you say, how far he's come, I remember you and I, Tid, traveling down to see live ECW shows back in the day when they were struggling to get attendance, when they had no media, right? We would show up and we are the press, right? And Paul Heyman at that time was so persona non grata with WWE. We used to hear stories from guys in the locker room about how no one in WWE would even return a call to him or anything. And now look how far this guy has come.
Yeah.
It's wild. Boris, who are you most excited to see in the Hall of
For
Fame?
me, it's Paul Heyman as well. Like, I remember not even being a teenager with my older brother driving down to Buffalo to the Burt Flickinger Center to watch ECW. That was just some of the best memories of my early teen years. And before, I was like 11 years old doing this with him. And, actually, I'm pretty sure I ran into you guys at some point. I do remember like meeting and thinking, aren't those the guys from The Law? Like way early in the day. Anyways, but yeah, honestly, it's Heyman. That's someone who, I absolutely respect in the wrestling business. Just the way that he talks and the fact that, he even said he's not really preparing a speech. He's just going to wing it. He's going to see what the atmosphere is like and he's going to take it from there. And that just goes to show you how great of a talker he is, how comfortable of a talker he is. And that the speech is going to be epic regardless.
Yeah, that's bullshit. I'm going to call bullshit. I'm calling bullshit on that. There's going to be some prepared shit from Paul Heyman.
I'm sure there will be, but
100%. And it's going to be so well written that none of us are even going to know the difference.
Yeah,
I agree. And I think actually the induction speech from Roman introducing him is probably going to be a lot better than people are expecting. He's an eloquent son of a bitch. So I'm curious to see how he sets it up. But two people I would have loved to have actually seen there, but unfortunately they are both posthumous inductions, is of course the great one, Muhammad Ali and Leah Maivia. A lot of people are not happy with the Leah Maivia induction because they're equating it to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He returns to WWE, he gets a seat on the board of directors, and then snaps his finger, and his grandmother is in the Hall of Fame. Let's not forget that she earned her spot there and probably should have already been in. And people go, but she wasn't in the WWE. But the WWE Hall of Fame has extended past WWE borders. It has really become almost like the NBA's version of the Basketball Hall of Fame, where it's not the NBA Hall of Fame, it's a Basketball Hall of Fame. And the WWE will induct whoever they see fit. And in this case, Leah Maivia being the first ever female wrestling promoter and a person who really helped develop a lot of talent that Vince eventually stole. And there's a story there that is actually fascinating. You talk about a woman that fought the FBI and lost, and then fought the FBI again and won. Coincidentally, she won when The Rock was a big star. I don't know if that was part of the equation or not, but just saying. But unfortunately, those are posthumous inductions. The other one that I'm super excited about, and Tid, this again, I'm hearkening back a lot to you and I tonight with our early days. I remember hearing from people back in the day, going on and on and on and on, no matter who it was that would say it. Baby, Dusty Rhodes, he's just a Thunderbolt Patterson ripoff. Man, did we used to hear that a lot, a lot. And Thunderbolt Patterson is finally getting his just due, being inducted into the Hall of Fame. I find it bizarre when I see the announcement on WWE socials, and then all these fans like, who's this boomer? Like as if Google's not a thing, right? But Thunderbolt Patterson, a lot of people have long felt that after Dusty tagged with Thunderbolt Patterson in the 70s, he just essentially lifted his entire gimmick and went and did it on a bigger stage. But Thunderbolt Patterson isn't being inducted because of his energetic charisma. He's being inducted in a lot of ways for his efforts as a builder in professional wrestling and a guy who really fought for rights. He fought for the rights of the Black performer. He fought for the rights of all performers when it came to time off and medical benefits and being taken care of and being able to report, hey, I'm injured without losing bookings. And it took a long time for a lot of that stuff to catch up, but he was the one that started rattling the cages. Obviously a bit of a trailblazer and well ahead of his time. Either one of you have thoughts on Thunderbolt Patterson going into the Hall of Fame?
I'm going to be 100% honest. I didn't know too much about him until I've heard of him. I knew kind of what he was known for in terms of, the union things and the rights and whatnot. But I used this crazy machine called Google, and I learned a lot about him when he was inducted. And, that's a really, really cool one. And again, kind of similar to what you said, right? This is turning into the Wrestling Hall of Fame. More than just WWE itself. So yeah, I really do. I kind of dig it. That one's going to be a good one as well, I think.
I honestly don't think that there's going to be more than 15 to 20% of the people who actually knew who Thunderbolt Patterson was before this.
Agreed.
That been said, even myself, I had only come across him very sparsely back in the day. But we were talking, I go back in the day because I would watch the Smoky Mountain stuff. I would watch the Pacific Northwest stuff. I had the Texas stuff, that was available to me, the AWA stuff. So I go all the way back in those territory days. But even then,
Tid watched Frank Gotch versus Abraham Lincoln when he was a 20-year-old.
That didn't happen, ladies and gentlemen. That didn't happen. Anyways, go ahead, Donnie.
Go on. Finish your point. I was just trying to get a cheap shot in.
Oh, did it work?
No,
absolutely.
You know, sold it like a son of a bitch.
So my point is that I hope that we get to see a lot more of these types of inductions in the future, because what is happening is, you just heard it yourself. Boris just said it himself, is it forced him to have to go to, Google and look up the history of this one person. And there needs to be more history told to people, because I'll tell you straight fucking up right now, it is so aggravating when it's like, oh, who's your favorite wrestler when you were growing up? I don't know, like maybe The Miz. All right, listen, all due respect to The Miz, he's a phenomenal talent, there's no doubt about that. But if you don't think that wrestling actually existed before the year 2000, then you need to do your homework. You need to go out and look up the people that made it possible, because everybody has ripped off everybody from the past. That's the way it goes.
Ted, I have a question for you now that we're talking about, the history and wanting to see more inductions like this. Is this a sign of WWE kind of stepping back and looking at the history of wrestling, or do you think this is just, coincidental?
No, I think that this is going to be a more often thing than not. I think you're going to see this actually work itself into its own category, for years to come. Absolutely. And hopefully stuff like this causes a catalyst or is the catalyst to open up an actual place. They've
been talking about that forever.
I know they have, and they have the ability, and who knows, maybe with this new ownership and the new direction, that they're going to go with these partnerships, because the UFC is very much into this stuff. And we're seeing a lot of places that are trying to make their museums. Hell, in Las Vegas alone, there's this place called the Punk Rock Museum that is this massive, massive warehouse that covers the history of punk rock music. The WWE could have something like that, and then kind of like integrate more of the outside wrestling, all the promotions, all the tapes, all the libraries that they've bought, and start utilizing, and telling the stories of those people. Because otherwise, they're the only ones that have the opportunity to get this out there. They're the only ones that have this at their, in their drawer to be able to go, whoop, whoop, put this out. Hey, have you heard the story about this, kids? So it's their responsibility to actually educate wrestling fans as to the history of wrestling.
The nice thing right now is I heard from someone who is on the inside that told me that this is the first year that Triple H is the one solely responsible for choosing who gets inducted into the Hall of Fame. And he's an old school guy, and he's a student of the game. And not to, turn a pun or anything, but
what do you mean?
Well, it's his name, the game. But I think that it's an interesting thing, because whereas Vince McMahon, the former owner of the company and head of everything in the company, would often not have people inducted because of personal grudges over the years for whatever reason. That doesn't seem to be the case with Triple H. He does not care, and he's not a guy that seems to hold a lot of personal grudges. I mean, there's been people like Cody Rhodes and CM Punk that he had personal beef with, and at the first opportunity to bring them back into the fold, he's like, welcome home, baby, let's make some money. So I don't think that those kinds of things are going to be obstacles anymore, and I think it's also going to open the doors for a lot of other legacy inductions, maybe guys like Ivan Koloff, who probably should be in the Hall of Fame, and others. So it's going to be exciting to see. I think the whole weekend, the whole Hall of Fame ceremony is going to be a lot of fun. It usually is. Let's move on, because I want to talk about some of the other stuff that's happening this weekend. Let's talk a little bit about Stand and Deliver, which is the NXT version of Wrestlemania that's happening on Saturday afternoon. Some interesting matches on here. I don't know how closely either one of you are following NXT right now. For me, the two matches that sell this pay-per-view are the Tag Team Championship match and the Big Grudge match, right? The Big Grudge match being Trick Williams versus Carmelo Hayes. I called Tid a month or two ago, and I said, Trick Williams is my new favorite wrestler.
Look at the reaction he's getting on SmackDown for those brief appearances. He's going to be a superstar. And to think that he was, the secondary, he was, second to Carmelo Hayes just a few months ago.
He was his Diesel. And people like to say stuff like, oh, he sucks. He only knows 3 moves. I don't care if he doesn't know one. He's good. He's over and he's money. And I like the guy. I think he's super energetic and relatable and believable. And I think that match has been built up beautifully. So I'm looking forward to it. And the tag match, I did not think that there was anything that company could do to make Baron Corbin interesting to me, but they did. Baron Corbin and Braun Breaker are interesting to me. You know, Braun Breaker is a freak of nature, and I think he's going to be a huge star, but that tag team is interesting to me. Now, that all being said, they're probably going to lose the titles because Braun is on his way to bigger things on SmackDown. But is there anything on this card that stands out to either one of you? Let's go to Boris.
The tag team match, you know, Baron Corbin, Braun Breaker, Axiom, and Nathan Frazier, right? Nathan Frazier, student of Seth Rollins, you know, and you have Axiom, first Spanish-born wrestler who's just done amazing things in NXT UK and NXT regular. Really looking forward to that match in particular. A match that I'm kind of curious about, just because of I never thought that this person would be a heel. And that's the women's match, the women's titles match. And that's Lyra Valkyria against Roxanne Perez, with Roxanne Perez being the bad girl in this match, right? She's this person who has this amazing backstory of being a huge fan since she was a little girl. They have pictures of her waiting in line, taking pictures with superstars as a 10-year-old. So she, like, her road to becoming a face, and kind of like that same road that Bailey had, where she was just this lovable, bubbly person, and turning her heel was very, very interesting. So I'm more interested in the dynamics of that match, but both women can go. And that's going to be a great match. I think that might be kind of like that silent match that is match of the afternoon.
My problem with that match, Lyra and Roxanne, is when I watch the two of them in the ring together, I feel like I'm a little drunk or a little high, because I feel like aesthetically they're so similar looking. Yeah, I'm like, what's going on right now? Am I fucking seeing double? Am I tripping balls? Like, one of them is just a little bit more ethnic looking, and the other one is a little bit more white looking, but they look like the same person.
Yeah, and honestly, I need to call out any match that Ilya Dragunov is in. You know, it's going to be a great match. Oh, yeah. He can have a match with just about anyone and make that other person look great. You know, the classic matches he had with Walter, the classic matches that he had even with Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes. And now he's going to go up against, you know, Tony D'Angelo. I think that match is going to be hard hitting and tons of fun, based solely on Ilya Dragunov.
Ed, is there anything on that card that you're looking forward to?
Here's the thing. It's not so much the card that I'm looking forward to the most. And that being said, I think that the Trick Williams match and Carmelo Hayes is, I mean, listen, that's a feud. That's a feud that you could carry over onto one of the other shows very easily. Here's what I'm really looking forward to the most, is because we know these call-ups are happening, and NXT has delivered every single time. The way that they've been able to build these guys up right before, these guys and girls, right before they get called up to those bigger shows, has been absolutely phenomenal. The problem is that there's too many. There's too many such good players in NXT right now, and not everybody can get called up. Some people have to be held back. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like Ilya Dragunov should be doing a lot more on the bigger shows. Carmelo Hayes should be doing a lot more on the bigger show. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that should be doing a lot more. The fact that they've got Baron Corbin down in NXT doing stuff, the fact that they've got the Good Brothers down there doing stuff, you know what I mean? To be these veteran leaders to help these younger guys get ready so that they can go up to the big show, shows me that the environment in NXT is just a little bit different than it is on any of the other shows, I think. And they're knocking it out of the park. Absolutely, every single time.
And I find that this iteration of NXT is such an amazing class, and it's kind of like they don't have that hoopla of the super independent that, you know, the Adam Coles and that, you know, the end of the black and gold generation of NXT had. This generation of NXT is just so talented, so much fun, and they're kind of sliding under the radar a little bit.
I think one of the reasons, though, is because you got to remember when NXT started before, they didn't have the structure, the class structure that they have now with the Performance Center, with the this is your class time, this is what's going on. Everything is very structured and planned out, university style, and so you have people that are really getting indoctrinated into that into the program, so to speak, right out the gate, as opposed to before. You were still allowing a lot more of the indie darlings to come over and still kind of get their shit in and learn the process as they go. Now guys and girls got to go through the entire process before they're even seen on TV.
And the other thing
for
is,
anyone that's sorry, I was just gonna say, for anyone that's brand new to NXT, they don't normally watch the product, they're checking it out for the first time. Some of those names that Tid is referencing that are probably going to be major players on Raw or SmackDown over the next year or two, that you might want to keep an eye out for, aside from the names we've already mentioned, like Trick and Mello and Ilya. Aside from those names, and Braun Breaker, of course, keep your eye on Joe Gacy. Keep your eye on Obafemi, who is getting major praise from the agents down there. Keep your eye on Dijak. And even though he makes me cringe a little bit in every single match, because he always does something that's a little indie-rific and a little green, Nathan Frazier has something. He has something, right? He's an athletic, new world spot monkey, and he has something in him that people really gravitate to. So keep your eye. And of course, friend of the show, Sean Spears, will be on the show, and he's the quintessential great hand, right, Tid?
Listen, Spears is my boy. I've loved that guy for years and years and years. And I love the fact that he's back in NXT, another veteran who's been down. He's seen multiple rings all around the world now and multiple big companies. And that's really something that can be utilized, even his hand in the ring, but his coaching ability. Another guy that I'm going to say it all the time. I don't care if it happens year after year until it actually happens. I'm going to say the man who deserves the call up more than anybody in NXT, my boy, your boy, everybody's boy, referee Adrian Butler. Get his ass up to the big show right away. All right. Make it happen. Shut up. He deserves the call up. Give him the call up.
He's so happy where he is. He's so happy.
I love him.
Every now and then I see him on SmackDown and I'll text him and I'll be like, so who called in sick? Because he's so happy on NXT.
He's ripping 12+ hour days right now. That started earlier in the week. I talked to him and he couldn't be happier. Like he's loving the grind, and it's absolutely couldn't happen to a better dude.
I was playing WWE 2K24 yesterday with my 11-year-old, and I'm in the middle of a match, and it's like, if you've ever played the game, you get all these like achievements that they tell you, okay, do an Irish whip into the corner. It's like, oh, fuck, okay, I got to do an Irish whip. So I'm trying to Irish whip Andre the Giant, and I do, and he runs into Adrian Butler, the referee, and I get disqualified. I'm like, fuck, Hornet, get out of my way.
It's all about footwork. It's all about your footwork sucks, bro.
Terrible ring positioning, ref. What are you doing? You're killing me. All right, let's move on to WrestleMania, because there's a lot to talk about here. There's 2 full nights of matches. And, a couple weeks ago, I started thinking to myself, 2 full nights of matches. They still got a bunch of names that aren't on either night. And the card is looking a little light. And then all of a sudden, all these extra matches started getting added in. And it became the traditional, hey, we got to make sure that our stalwarts, that our loyals get a WrestleMania payday. And I like that they do that. So, some of those matches that recently got added, Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee representing the LWO against Dominic Mysterio and Santos Escobar. This is like the epitome of the thrown together, just get them on the show match. Like, Dominic is not part of Escobar's faction, but they want Dominic on the show. And, they just sort of tried to kickstart his feud with Rey again in the last couple weeks. Dragon Lee just got thrown into the LWO because I guess Carlito isn't good enough. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure why. I found it weird that they gave him a WrestleMania spot like this, But this week on their new show on Twitter, he lost in 2 minutes and 57 seconds to Ricochet. Like, is he good enough for WrestleMania or is he not good enough for Speed? Which one is it, right? So I thought that was interesting. Obviously, they just announced the match, Damage Control against the Black Avengers, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill and Naomi. I think that's going to be fantastic, to be honest with you, like the star power. And then they announced a couple of other matches for night 2, like Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits against the Final Testament, which I think is going to be exactly what you think it's going to be. But on night 1, I'm going to quickly run down the matches. You guys tell me what you're most jacked up for. Rhea Ripley defending against Becky Lynch, Gunther versus Sami Zayn, Damian Priest and Finn Balor in that 6-pack ladder match for the Undisputed Tag Team Championships, Jay versus Jimmy Uso. I just mentioned the women's 6-man tag and the LWO versus Dominic and Santos. And then we have the huge main event on night 1, The Rock and Roman Reigns versus Cody and Seth Rollins. I think for most people, that main event is a massive draw because it's like, oh, what's The Rock going to look like in his 7th match in the last 20 years? But let's remove that one from the equation. What else are you really jacked about and really stoked to see, Tid?
For me, it's brother versus brother. It's Jimmy and Jay right out I mean, listen, I couldn't be happier for two dudes because you know that they thought about this when they were just little kids. You know what I mean?
100%.
Facing off against one another at WrestleMania. And now they get a chance to do it. So it's going to bring out just something a little bit extra, I think. You know, some of the stuff is going to mean a little bit more to these guys. And I think that this match also, story-wise, has a lot more implications to what can take place on night 2 as well, right? Because you think about it, if it becomes on night 2, if it becomes a bloodline rules, right? Well, then there's outside interference, and these two are quite open to being able to be part of that outside interference. Who knows, right? So that's the match that I'm really excited about for night 1.
If you had to lay down $100, who would you put your money on?
Jimmy.
Really interesting. That seems to be the prevailing sentiment right now is Jimmy Uso going over. And someone made the comment to me, every 15 years they have real life brothers fighting at WrestleMania and it's always the heel that wins. It's like always the heel. Holy small sample size. It's happened twice. But that being said, if I had to lay down $100 on that one, I would put it on Jay because they call him main event Jey Uso and he never wins. The guy needs a win on a big stage. Like when he beat Nakamura this week, it was the first time he's won a singles match in forever on TV. Forever. So he needs it. People like to say, oh, he's already established. Jimmy needs it. Jimmy is Jimmy. He's fine. A heel can lose. Boris, aside from that match, what else are you really stoked about on night 1?
Oh man, that's a great question. I would have to honestly say Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch. I'm really looking forward to that match. Again, is Becky Lynch going to take a vacation after this? Is she going to, get the belt? What's the plan with Rhea Ripley? She is arguably, one of WWE's biggest stars, period, male or female, one of their biggest stars, period. Is she going to continue her title reign? Like there's a lot of questions where it's like, who is actually going to win this match? And when I can't go into a match flat out knowing, as a fan, who's going to win, that always entices me a little bit more.
I feel like that's the case with every title match on night 1. You don't really have a sense of who's going to win. You could make a case for anyone, right? Rhea versus Becky. Would it be weird if Becky didn't win? Not really, because Rhea's so hot right now. So it's crazy to think that you would not have Becky win at WrestleMania, but Rhea Ripley's so hot right now. Actually, that's a really good point. Let's do that. There's 3 championship matches on night 1. Give a prediction. Tid, Rhea versus Becky. You're muted.
You're muted.
Sorry, it was a zoo going on. Rhea Ripley, it's not time for her to lose the title yet. I think that she's the face of that division right now. And I think that Judgment Day is about due for a shift in some way, but I think that she maintains her spot.
Boris, Rhea, and Becky.
Yeah. I think Rhea's going to win.
Same?
I think Becky Lynch is going to go on that vacation, and Rhea's she's just so hot right now and just such a star for WWE. It would be a huge miss for her not to get that passing of the torch ish, especially if Becky becomes less full-time moving forward.
It's just funny to see when the WWE puts the promotional machine behind someone. In the last 18 months, Rhea went from obscurity to the hottest property in the company. Like, it's insane how big she is now.
Dude, before she joined Judgment Day, she was like, there was how many fans saying, oh, Rhea's ruined on the main roster. What is she doing on the main roster right now?
Yeah, she had nothing going on. The Intercontinental title match, I think, is really interesting. Gunther versus Sami Zayn. All the TV booking would suggest Sami's going to win, right? He's been laid out in multiple weeks, and usually on the go-home episode, whoever's left laying is the guy that's going to get his hand raised at the pay-per-view. Tid, Sami versus Gunther for the IC strap.
Yeah, as much as I'd like to think that the Cinderella story is going to take place with this one, that's not the Cinderella story that the WWE is going to tell. I think that Gunther keeps this one and probably loses it on a lesser known pay-per-view down the line.
Interesting. Boris.
I agree. I think Gunther is going to end up winning. And like you said, the real Cinderella story is Chad Gable, not Sami Zayn.
There's a lot of belief out there that Chad Gable, who's been acting as quasi mentor / coach to Sami over the last few weeks, that Chad Gable could actually turn heel and end up screwing Sami Zayn out of the title. I think that's a very possible working scenario. And then those two spin off into a feud. That's possible. I don't want Gunther to lose. I've gone on record saying he's my favorite piece on the entire roster. That being said, all the traditional WWE booking makes you think Sami's getting his hand raised. So I'll say Sami, even though it's not what I want to have happen. The 6-pack ladder match, Judgment Day, Awesome Truth, New Day, A-Town Down Under, which, by the way, I love that name. New Catch Republic for the 6-pack tag team championship. I mean, this is a pick'em. This is like a fucking crapshoot. No, Tid? You don't think so?
Super easy. Easy. R-Truth. R-Truth wins this whole fucking thing.
Now remember,
yeah.
Michael Cole went out of his way on Raw to say that both sets of titles need to be pulled down before the match ends. So there is a possibility that either the same team wins both and the undisputed continues, or the tag team titles get split up. So you think they're taking it all?
I think no matter what, R-Truth ends up with one of those belts.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. Because I mean, he is just gold. He is money printing money right now. Right. So you let him run with it a little bit. Why not? He's not going to get another chance at it. You know what I mean? Give this dude his fucking flowers right now. Yeah. Killing it. Absolutely killing it.
I mean, if you go based on that and you go based on his marketability, you're 100% right. I think R-Truth has to win something. I think Priest and Balor have had their run and they've established themselves. Balor, it's been well publicized. His contract is coming up and has not signed an extension yet. Although the word I hear is he plans to stay with WWE for the rest of his career, but still contract is coming up. And that's not a company that is going to leave their belt on someone when they don't have a renewal. Damian Priest, a lot of rumors about him cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase, so he doesn't need the tag titles anymore. We'll see what happens, but I have heard the same theory that Boris mentioned about this would be the right way to split up the tag team championships. So that's entirely possible too. If they were going to do that, I think Awesome Truth wins one set, and then maybe the New Catch Republic takes the other. Because I think those two guys have something, and I think I think the big strong boy is really doing a good job getting himself over with all his crazy shtick. Night 2, I'm going to run that down real quick. Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre for the World Heavyweight Championship. Io Sky versus Bayley for the Women's Championship. L.A. Knight versus AJ Styles. Logan Paul defending the United States Championship versus Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. The Pride, I hate that name. Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits versus the Final Testament. And then Roman Reigns defending the championship against Cody Rhodes. It might be a no rules match. It will be a no rules match on night 2. And that's what's going down. So we have 4 championship matches on night 2. So let's specifically look at those championship matches. Seth versus Drew. Is there anyone that thinks Seth is keeping the title?
I really doubt that there's any chance he can.
No.
Yeah.
No.
The bigger question is, who's going to leave as champ? Drew McIntyre and Priest?
Well, that's another question, right? Because there's been a lot of talk of Damian Priest cashing in his Money in the Bank. I don't think he can do it on this night. I don't. Because I think the only way Damian Priest cashes in Money in the Bank is if Seth Rollins manages to retain somehow. That's the only way I see it happening. Because Drew McIntyre has been so hot and he's been so good as a heel. And then to get screwed by another heel, that really cuts his legs out from under him. I think it really cuts his legs out from under him and it gives him nowhere to go. Right? So I don't love that idea. I think if Priest is going to cash in, it's only if Seth finds a way to retain. That's my opinion.
Remember, what if CM Punk is on commentary?
Fuck it.
What if?
I'm just saying.
What if Damian Priest does cash in and everybody's looking at that match like that's where he's going to cash in, that Drew McIntyre match, right, with Seth? What if that's not the match that he's looking to cash in on? What if that happens and Cody does end up winning only to get cashed in on? Only to get cashed in on.
The anger that people would have if that were to happen. Yeah.
What better city for it to take place?
There's not enough police in Philly.
Fill up. Fuck you, Delphia.
Triple H better not even be in the city when that happens. If that were to happen.
You know Vince would book it. You absolutely know Vince would book it.
And Vince is nowhere near the building on Sunday night. You know what? Speaking of which, I heard a really interesting thing today from what's his name? Dutch Mantel. And he said he got this from a very, very reliable source that said last year, 2023, remember when Cena had that extended run during the writer's strike and he came back to WWE for a few months? Apparently, Vince went and hired John Cena without telling TKO, the board, and paid him a ridiculous sum of money as a fuck you to TKO. And when TKO found out, they locked Vince out of all of the accounts and they permanently locked him out of the headquarters. He's not even allowed to go into the building. So Dutch was saying, when people talk about Vince is still pulling puppet strings, he's like, those strings were cut off by Ari Emanuel a long time ago.
Right.
He's got no strings because if anyone was found to be colluding with Vince, they'd be fired. So nobody loves Vince enough to put their own job on the line. You know what I'm saying? And it's an interesting story. And when we were talking about the Hall of Fame earlier, just to bring that full circle, isn't it funny that the one guy who's never going to get in the Hall of Fame is Vince McMahon?
Yep. There you go.
Is Chris Benoit in the Hall of Fame?
Chris Benoit does not deserve a spot on his merit compared to Vince McMahon. I'm just saying, it's funny that he'll never get in.
We don't know. We don't know if Vince McMahon has killed people or not.
He'll never get in. But you guys both referenced the main event a second ago. I'll get back to that in a second. But another championship match, Io Sky versus Bailey. I feel like this one is another gimme. Like Bailey is 1000% going to win. As unpredictable as the championship matches are on night one, I feel like night two championship matches are a little bit more easy to read. Yeah,
I agree.
The build is to the main. The build is to the main on night two. 100%. So that's why I think they loaded it with championship matches. So you still have those matches. Oh, it's a championship match, but nothing's really going to change in these ones, right?
Logan Paul, Kevin Owens, Randy Orton. That one to me is a pick'em.
No,
I disagree. Logan Paul 100% is going to win, and he's going to walk down with his brother on Netflix with the U.S. Championship. And whenever that is, that fight.
Yeah,
it's in January.
I think that,
you're talking about the Mike Tyson fight.
Yeah, the Tyson
fight.
Yeah. I think that they like what Logan Paul is doing with that belt right now, and they're going to continue to let him get eyeballs on that belt the way that he's doing it. I think the nice thing about this is I feel sorry for Kevin Owens because I feel like he's third wheel in this match, in this feud, because I really, really like the idea of seeing what Randy Orton can pull out of Logan Paul. Logan Paul is a blessing to everybody in professional wrestling right now. That's coming from a guy who is taking bumps. His athleticism and his wanting to learn and just completely submersing himself into all of this. I mean, who knew? Absolutely nobody fucking knew. And the fact that now he's got a chance to get in there with a guy like Randy Orton. I mean, come on.
A guy who Randy, like I watched the Logan Paul interview he did last week with Rhea Ripley on his podcast. And he was talking to Rhea, and it was a very casual shoot interview. Rhea's out of character. And he says, I'm still an outsider in that locker room, and I tiptoe around because I feel like I'm an outsider and everyone's very nice to me. But I know that I don't do what they do because I'm not on the road as much as they are. And I just sort of fly in when they ask me to. He's like, everyone's very nice. And Randy Orton is very nice, but he terrifies me.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's a shoot.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah.
Yep. If you know anything about Randy's past, right? Like I would hide.
I've only ever had one or two in-person interactions with Randy Orton. They were both very, very short. And he does have a stoic, the fuck are you looking at resting face. He's one of those guys that if he likes you, you're good. And if he doesn't like you, you might want to just leave the room. I could honestly see either one of those really talented workers winning this match, but I think you're right. Logan Paul probably retains. Does anyone have any interest in LA Knight versus AJ Styles?
Yeah, LA Knight does.
He's finally got a WrestleMania match?
Or a match in general.
Listen, I think that match is going to be a lot better than people are giving it credit for. I think it's going to be a hell of a match. And maybe that's the match where something switches.
What switches?
Maybe that's the match where it finally happens for LA Knight that he can, get hella over.
Oh, isn't he over?
He's over, but he's not hella over.
I think at this point for him, he needs to have a moment like what MJF had in early 2023. In early 2023, MJF was a guy who people said was just a talker, and his ring work was balls. And then he said, okay, Marks, watch this. And he just started doing shit. He just started putting spots into his match, even shit that doesn't even make sense. He would just build dumb high spots into his match. And then the Marks go, oh my God, he's so talented in the ring. And I think LA Knight, as much as he's an old school guy, Tid, with an old school mindset of, I don't need to do this and that, right? I think for him to take that next step in the eyes of the public, he needs to inject a little more shit. He needs to
Absolutely.
inject a little more stuff into his
Absolutely.
work.
That's what I was so like he went from a guy who did the work to then a guy who does the talk. Now he needs to be the guy that does both. And I think that a match with AJ is going to be able to pull that out of him.
And for anyone out there who says, well, he can't do all that stuff because he's not that good. He's the guy that does the motion capture for every single move in WWE's video game.
Yeah.
He does everything. The top rope Spanish fly, the poison ranas, the fucking the tope suicidas. He does all that shit.
Listen, we've all been around, and I've been around enough locker rooms, and I know enough of these fucking guys. I've been in the business for 26 fucking plus years. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. 100%. It doesn't make any sense for that character to do those types of things, right?
Now say that in the mirror 10 times, Will Ospreay.
Who would show up?
What's that?
Who would show up if you did that? If you said it in the mirror 10 times, you know what I mean? Like a Candyman moment.
The ultimate
The
spot
Undertaker.
monkey. No, he ain't no spot monkey.
No. I wasn't answering you. I wasn't answering you.
Super Crazy shows up.
Yeah, maybe. That's a good one. Psychosis.
Right?
Hoovy. So I think that match has potential to be storytelling. Now, I did just reference MJF.
Okay.
There is a filthy, disgusting, probably unlikely rumor that's been going around out there that MJF has secretly signed a contract with WWE. I don't think this is legit, but this is a dirty story that's out there. And one person said that there was a plan for John Cena to make an unscheduled appearance at WrestleMania 40 and to introduce MJF. I don't know that there's any validity to this. Do you guys think there's any likelihood whatsoever? If you had to bet some sum of money, what would you bet on the likelihood of MJF showing up either at WrestleMania weekend or the week after WrestleMania, which is traditionally a big week for debuts?
I mean, if I had to guess, I would say that if you were to use him on WrestleMania weekend, it gets lost. I think a moment like that gets completely lost because where are you supposed to put him? You don't just throw him right into the mix, and everything is building towards this one moment in this WrestleMania, right? So what are you going to do? You're going to have him come out. You're going to have him come out at the beginning, like in the pre-show. You know, Grayson Waller's out there cutting a promo, and MJF comes out and gives him the what for, right? Takes out a heel, baby faces, yay, and then next week turns heel on somebody. Like you're not, you know what I mean? So if you're going to use him on Monday night, have him come out. Or even if you start a tease, all of a sudden somebody sees, somebody walking out the door and was like, was that? And then they open up the door and there's the scarf laying on the ground or something like that. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, people lose their minds.
1000% they would, right? But you could start something like that. You could absolutely start something like that because I think that if you use them on this weekend, it kills any kind of momentum you could get with them.
So over this weekend or the next week, what do you think the likelihood is, Ted?
Next week, if at all.
So you think it will happen next week?
No, I don't think anything will happen because it's the world of professional wrestling. What I would like to have happen is exactly that. But, Okay.
Boris, what's your thought?
I don't think that there's really much of a chance of that happening. And I agree with Tid that if it were to happen, Monday has to be it. Like, again, that's the night of first appearances, returns, surprises. You think back to Lesnar in 2012, Goldberg 2003, right? So it would be Monday if anything, but I doubt it'll happen, to be honest.
You don't want to waste a pop like that on something that's going to get lost in the mix. You're going to have to spend way too much. You're going to have to spend way too much money for that pop, right? So you're going to want to utilize it. It's going
to be hard it's going to be hard as hell to keep that a secret this weekend.
Yeah.
Right? As heavily trafficked as the whole city is right now, it's going to be really hard to keep that on the low.
Look at Julia. She's been spotted at the airport going to Philadelphia from Tokyo. So like,
yeah, but those girls got stalkers, man.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? You knew.
I saw the earlier today because Jeff Hardy posted a video on Instagram today where he was singing, and the backdrop fans were calling out like, is no one going to comment on the fact that he's in Philly? And I'm like, Jeff's under contract, so I'm pretty sure that's not a thing, but who knows?
But the Hall of Fame is happening.
Just inspired. I don't know.
Yeah. Hall of Fame is happening. Anybody could be there. Like, this is the beautiful thing, right?
Yeah, there's conventions. There's all kinds of shit going.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Okay, the main event. And for the record, I don't think MJF has signed a contract with WWE. I don't buy that dirty story that's out there. Roman Reigns defending against Cody Rhodes, the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. Deja vu. Everything old is new again. We did this last year. Let's run it back. I do think it was the right decision last year to not have Cody win. Now he is hotter than ever. The people are demanding that he wins. Cody went on the Today Show today, and his quote was, "If I don't win the title this weekend, I may as well stop wrestling and move to commentary." That's a big statement to say on the record.
Yeah, no, wrestlers don't say stuff on the record ever.
But he's burying himself.
Yeah. Yeah. So that it all looks that much bigger.
You think there's a possibility, Tid, that Cody doesn't walk out of WrestleMania holding the title?
No, I think that he wins the thing, and I think he gets swerved somehow. I think we're seeing Dusty 2.0 all over again.
There's no way. I say he walks into Monday Night Raw next week with the title.
Do you think he leaves Raw with the title then?
I don't give a shit, but he's walking into Raw with the title.
Exactly.
I can't book Raw, but he's walking into Raw with the title. I will bet anything that's going to happen. Boris, what do you think?
Here's the thing, right? Like you and I have talked about this online, and is there any way that Cody can come back? Is there any way that he's not, quote unquote, buried if he loses on Sunday? That's 2 back-to-back main events against the same person, the same story. Odds are stacked against him. If he loses, I just don't see a world where he can get any position.
All right. Would you two marks lose faith in him?
I think the entire fan base.
Oh, I'm asking you two. I'm asking you two.
Listen, I've never really believed Cody as a main event player,
wow.
But that's irrelevant. The truth is the fans believe in it and they want it. And what I'm saying is at this point, after you've revved up the promotional machine 2 years in a row, if you don't pull the trigger, you can't rev up that promotional machine again because people will be like, fooled me once, shame on me. Fooled me twice, shame on you. Try to fool me 3 times, I'll kick you in the dick. Like, there's no way they're going to crank this up again. And if he loses, then what? What do you do with him? You can't have a rematch. They already stated a stipulation. No more rematches for him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Damian Priest.
There's nowhere to go. He really should just move to commentary.
Damian Priest would be the new program.
If he wins the title, sure.
Mm-hmm. And then Priest catches it.
Okay, listen, I'm not going to go into the weeds that far. He's going to beat Roman Reigns for the... Okay? That's what I'm telling you. He's going to beat Roman Reigns for the belt. All the other possibilities and fantasy booking, I don't know. But he's going to pin Roman's shoulders to the mat. 1, 2, 3. It's probably going to take 75 Crossroads facebusters, but that's what's going to happen. And contrary to the belief of a lot of people online, I do not believe for 1 second he's going to get help from person A, person B, person C. No one else could touch Roman at all, because it will remove the shine from Cody's win. If a baby
What about
face
everyone
runs down
else?
if a babyface runs down and chases The Rock away, chases Solo away, chases Jimmy away, that's fine. Nobody else touches Roman at all. At all. Because if one other person touches Roman, it's like Cody didn't do it. Cody didn't do it on his own. He has to do it alone for it to matter.
So then what if it doesn't matter? What if The Rock is the one who touches Roman?
That's not going to happen. That the belief that people had that Rock was going to turn on Roman, that all went up in flames last week when Rock left Cody as a bloody mess. I think the story of Rock turning on Roman possibly comes after Roman loses the title. And then we start to see a power struggle within the bloodline. Like, you call yourself the tribal chief, you dropped the ball. And in that case, to me, I'm getting visions of, and coincidentally, Triple H is the man with the book. I'm getting flashes of WrestleMania aftermath when Shawn Michaels lost the WWE Championship. And the next night on Raw, Triple H came out and declared a new time for DX. Shawn is out, Triple H is in, and he brought in new recruits. And they just signed Tama Tonga and the other one, his brother, what's his name again? Tia or Leone? The two Haku brothers, right? They signed both of them. They are not family per se, but they are considered extended members of the family. They could both become part of the bloodline angle. Booker T, I know for a fact, has been pushing hard for the last 6 months for them to sign Jacob Fatu, as have each member of the bloodline. If they brought in Jacob Fatu, that's another piece to enter into that story. And they also have Umaga's son, Zilla, who's green as shit. But if you just want a guy to be the new Solo while Solo starts working more, he could be that guy. And then you got so many names, maybe it turns into a splitting of the bloodline. One half led by Roman, one half led by Rock. They could feud for the next 2 fucking years.
All like the Wolf Pack?
Maybe.
I think you're missing the unsung hero in all of this, though, because that entire pack could also have their own referee. I'm talking about Adrian Butler, Fijian bloodline right there, right? This is the perfect time to call him up. Come on, Trips. Hornet, I'm trying to get you up there, brother.
You're in the bloodline. We have our own referee. He's the Nick Patrick of the bloodline.
Fantastic.
Bring back Uncensored.
Quick side story for everyone. Back in the day when Adrian Butler was an indie wrestler in the Greater Toronto area, and we'd go out to the clubs, and he was a shy young kid, I would wingman for this kid, and I would go up to girls. I'd be like, ladies, this is my friend. He's the Prince of Fiji. He doesn't speak much English, but he's very, very rich. And he would just smile and nod, and
yeah,
and then he'd close.
Yeah, super easy. Excellent.
So, Boris, I don't think you went on the record. Roman or Cody?
Cody.
Yeah.
Has to be.
Yeah.
Has to be, I think.
It has to be. Especially if you go by what I said earlier, traditional WWE booking. The guy has been destroyed physically the last 2 weeks in a row. And then you're going to pin him? Like, just fire him at that point. You don't need him on the roster anymore if you're going to pin him. Just get him out the door. Because he has no value to your roster anymore.
Just create the new. You can hire Davey Boy Smith Jr. again and put him in a tag team, just like Lex Luger had to do after he kind of had the same route.
Yeah, how well did that work out?
Exactly.
Listen. Nobody knows how much I enjoy seeing happy people's happiness taken away from them. So I'm going to say it's called a dusty finish for a reason, ladies and gentlemen. Come on.
Oh.
You are the quintessential asshole yelling at clouds that just wants to watch the world burn. You just want to see everyone be angry.
Yeah. Let's get that. Let's get that emotion flowing, ladies and gentlemen. Come on.
You know, Tid, when it comes to professional wrestling, I am the biggest advocate and believer of heat. I think that heat was a long forgotten aspect, building intensity, building emotion. But in this instance, that's bad heat.
No.
That's sell your stock heat.
No, we're north of the border. That's fine. It'll never touch us up here. I'm telling you.
That's forest fire.
I'm telling you. For all the people living in Philly, Sunday night can get a little crazy.
Yeah. Convenience stores will be up in flames. Like, forget it. There's no chance. Get your cheesesteaks early because every shop is going to get burnt to ash.
Do the poles get greased? Do the lamp poles get greased this year in Philadelphia?
Oh, God.
How much of a factor do you think it'll be that early reports say that Saturday and Sunday in Philadelphia is expected to be about 50 degrees?
Yeah. I said this right out the get-go. Bro, there's listen, you see it behind me. Everybody knows that I am a diehard Eagles fan, but there is a very finite time when I will go to a game in Philadelphia because it's an outdoor stadium. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's hit and miss. Everybody knows that it's hit and miss down there, right? So it's going to be cold. I said it was going to be cold. It may not snow, it may not rain, but it's going to be cold still.
Did you ever wrestle in your 26-year career an outdoor show where it was that cold out?
Yeah. I wrestled when it was that cold and raining in a ring. Coincidentally, in a three-way or something like that, and Hornet was one of the participants. And he took the finish, which was a choke slam that I gave him. Like, I literally picked him up and like slow motion put him down on the ground. Oh, it was so ginger and soft. It was great. It was
Where was the show?
Some outdoor fair show up north someplace in Ontario.
What time of year would have been? How cold was it? Do you remember?
Oh, it was the fall fair. I know that. So it would have been, it was cold. It was cold. We wrestled. I'm pretty sure he and I both wrestled in hoodies.
Amazing.
I mean, you normally had a t-shirt or tank top anyway, but Hornet was usually just in his trunks. I mean,
yeah, legit.
That is so funny. Who was the third guy? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I honestly don't. It might have been Matt Burns. I don't know.
That's so funny. So funny. Okay. Overall, it's fun to look back when we're talking about 40 years of WrestleMania. When this one is said and done, it's a highly anticipated show. By all projections, it's going to be the most watched and highest selling, biggest revenue WrestleMania of all time. But in terms of enjoyability, rewatchability, where do you guys predict that this one will fall in the pantheon of WrestleMania?
I think this is going to be up there. It's going to be up there. The card looks pretty good. We talked about not like I know we went through some of the matches, but even then there was a lot of discussion, discourse, conversation, fantasy booking that can happen. Like the winner isn't known going into the night. So I think that's really going to be fun. The card looks great. I think it's going to be the top third.
I think overall, just because talent wise where we are, you have to assume that they're going to be bigger and better shows. Production wise, absolutely. As far as going down over the course of history, I mean, you're going to be really tough to beat WrestleMania 3. So, just because, the iconic measure of that Hogan Andre thing, you know what I mean? And the implications that it had on professional wrestling still to this day go down as one of the biggest, I think, right? So will this be better produced? 100%. Will it have better talent? 100%. Will it be a more eye-appealing show? 100%. Will it have the same ramifications on professional wrestling going forward? I don't think so, but we'll see.
I think a lot of people traditionally suggest that WrestleMania X7 is the best one ever. I've never really subscribed to that belief. I think WrestleMania 10 is probably my favorite top to bottom, despite the fact that son of a bitch Bret Hart got his hand raised at the end of the night. But aside from that, my personal feelings for Bret Hart aside, it's a stellar card. I actually thought the last two WrestleManias, 38 and 39, were very, 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 very good and very well done and are highly underrated because people have recency bias. Oh, it's not as good as the old ones. But they were both really good.
Absolutely.
And I think when it's all said and done, WrestleMania 40 will fall somewhere in that top 5, top 6 ever. When you look top to bottom, and then when you revisit in 5 to 10 years and go, oh, wow, look how many people on the undercard became huge.
Yeah.
I really see that on this show. And the same goes for Stand and Deliver. I think Stand and Deliver is filled with massive future stars and people that will eventually have upper card positions at WrestleMania. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up? Boris?
Honestly, looking forward to it. I just love wrestling. This is the big weekend for it. Really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to talking about after each night. And yeah, guys, it's going to be a long one, but it's going to be a fun one.
Shout out to Philadelphia. It's been nice knowing you. For all of you people that are still going to make it through the apocalypse down there, if you're looking for something to do, shout out to our boy, the Blue Meanie, who is having a party at McCusker's. Look it up, Google it, go say hi. If you go there and you mention Donnie, Blue Meanie will buy you a drink. He doesn't know it, but he will. So please do so. And to all of you in Philadelphia, man, have the time of your life. Stop and smell the roses. To all the workers out there, absolutely enjoy this for what it is. But remember why you're doing all of this in the first place. It's going to be fantastic.
If you go to McCusker's and tell the Blue Meanie that Donnie sent you, he will buy you a drink, and then he'll call me on the phone and get my credit card info. That's what's going to happen.
1,000%.
100%. Yeah, like 100%. But I want everybody to have a great time. Originally, I was planning to go out and hit up a couple of different WrestleMania parties. Tid, we talked on this show a month or so ago with Chaclair, and he was planning to host a WrestleMania party. And I was like, oh, that'd be fun. I'll go chill with Chaclair. And I've just made the decision. I made a last-minute decision. I am going to sit my ass on my couch. I am going to be super comfortable. I'm pulling a Notorious TID this weekend, and I am not leaving the house. I'm putting my fucking feet up. I'm going to make a ton of food, and I'm going to watch every minute of everything from the Hall of Fame to Stand and Deliver to night 1 and night 2. Even Boris said to me, hey, we're doing a thing on the air if you want to come and talk during the show. I'm like, bro, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch the shows. And that's all I'm doing on those nights when the shows are on. Afterwards, sure, whatever you need.
Your girlfriend's out of town, Donnie? Is that what you're saying?
Ladies and gentlemen, This has been a lot of fun. That is Notorious TID. Boris, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, if people want to check you out, they can go to the S Enemy Network and they can check you out on TSN and iHeartRadio, right?
That is correct. That's the best way to go. SundayNightsMainEvent.com. Your favorite podcasting app, Sunday Nights Main Event.
Perfect. And Ted, you got shows going on this weekend or next week, or what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, we're just kind of like playing it by ear and however we decide to do it because we don't have rules. I don't have rules on fucking live audio wrestling. It's gone back to the original days, right? Fuck your couch and fuck your rules, ladies and gentlemen.
And here I am, like thinking, what am I gonna do for 3 segments? Like, so I'm just like, whatever. It's trivia. I'm doing trivia, bringing people on doing trivia.
Yeah, it's because you have rules. Yeah,
we don't have rules.
No, I don't play by them. I don't play by them.
We have no rules.
Absolutely. So that's about it. There might be some pop-up shows. We might do some roundtable stuff. We might not. I don't know.
It would be fun to revisit once night 2 has ended and figure out how wrong everyone was.
I can't wait for that.
You know,
that might be a Sunday morning thing even.
Yeah.
It goes as much as I love
the unpredictability of this year's card.
Yeah, because as much as I love prognosticating and trying to fantasy book and decide what might happen, I also recognize this is a brand new regime in creative. They are not following a lot of the same tropes that have been followed in the past. And I like when they work me. I like when I don't know what's going to happen.
The whole purpose. That's the whole purpose of being a fan of professional wrestling.
100%.
Right? Same reason people that ride roller coasters like roller coasters. It's the thrill they get if they know they're going to that bottom, it's going up and it's going down. Wrestling fandom, same exact thing, man. You know you're going to get duped. You know you're going to get worked, but you're here for it.
I'm here for it. Thanks, Ted. Thanks, Boris. Buddy. My name is Donnie.
Thanks,
this
Jen.
is episode 170 in the books. We are the Godfathers of podcasting. We'll see you next time.
Deuces.
Fuck this shit, I'm out. Fuck this shit, I'm out. No thanks. Don't mind me. I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Nope. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Alright then. I don't know what the fuck just happened, but I don't really care. I'ma get the fuck up out of here. Fuck this shit, I'm out.